Hi girls, this video is called The Importance of Verbs. Let's go ahead and take notes for this one in the editing section of our writer's notebook. So the objectives for this video are that at the end you'll be able to identify and define verbs, explain why verbs are important to sentences, and then write complete sentences using strong verbs. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is define verbs, and I've got a little clip of a Schoolhouse Rock video to share with you.
Make it a verb and really send it.
Show me how.
Oh, I don't know my own power. I get my thing in action, in being, and doing, and saying. A verb expresses action, being or a state of being.
A verb makes a statement.
Yeah, a verb tells it like it is. Can tell you when it's happening.
Past, present, future tense.
Ooh, tell you more about what's happening.
Say it so it makes some sense.
Oh, I can tell you who is happening.
Verb, you're so intense.
Hey, every sentence has a subject.
Noun, person, place, or thing.
Find that subject, where's the action?
Verb can make a subject sing.
Take a subject, what is it? What's done to it? What does it say?
Great! At this point we have a really nice definition of a verb. A verb is a word that expresses an action or a state of being, and every sentence has to have at least one. And that's the reason largely why we're talking about verbs today. Without them, all of our sentences would be fragments or incomplete. So we've got to have a strong verb in each sentence. Verbs can be observable or they can be inobservable. So for example, this baby is giggling, and you can see that expression on his face. On the right, however, we have a man who's stressed out. That verb, being stressed out, is an internal action. It's not really observable. So the action can take place either on the outside or on the inside of a person. One other thing I want to remind you about is that verb forms change to reflect time, the past, the present, and the future. So in the past, I have this example, the bear roared. You're familiar with that ed ending. In the present, the bear roars. And in the future, we get a helping verb, the bear will roar. So will helps me to know that that'll take place in the future. So one other kind of verb you might be familiar with is a linking verb. A linking verb links the subject to the word that identifies or describes it. So for example, we've got our subject, and then the linking verb links the subject to an adjective or another word that tells me about that subject. Some examples of linking verbs are is, appear, feel, look, seem, or become. These aren't really actions. They link back to the subject itself. Here's an example. So on the left, we have a linking verb. The milk tastes sour. Tastes links milk to its taste, which is sour, and sour describes the milk. That's different than an action verb where we have a subject, he, the verb, the action, tasted the sour milk. There, tasted is an action verb telling me what the subject does. The last thing to know about verbs is that they can be part of a larger phrase. They might not just be a single word. A verb phrase contains a main verb plus one or more helping verbs. An example would be, they may have gone home. And here, may have is a helping verb for the verb gone. And then another example would be, does anyone here speak Spanish? And does is a helping verb modifying the verb speak. So that's just a heads up to let you know that there may be more than one verb in a phrase in a single sentence. Lastly, we come to a writing tip. Whenever you're choosing verbs for a sentence, you want to use vivid, specific action verbs to help readers imagine an action clearly. Here's a boring example. Aha, she said. She held the doorknob. In the second example, our verbs get exciting, and so does our sentence. Aha, she roared. She gripped the doorknob. The verbs here help us to really develop a greater sense of suspense, and they also give us a more clear image of exactly what's happening. So now let's have you give it a try. Write at least 3 sentences using strong verbs to describe this image. And your challenge today is to retell the story of a Disney movie with one change. The princess is now a hipster. So let's see you use those strong verbs in action.